Growing back and forth now over one of the most controversial issues in America, as the Democratic governor of Virginia is defending his remarks about late-term abortion and a bill there. Here's what Governor Ralph Northam, a former pediatric neurologist, said yesterday on radio.
Third trimester abortions, these are done with the consent of obviously the mother, with the consent of the physicians, more than one physician, by the way. And it's done in cases where there may be severe deformities, there may be a fetus that's non-viable. So in this particular example, if a mother is in labor, I can tell you exactly what would happen. The infant would be delivered. The infant would be kept comfortable. The infant would be resuscitated if that's what the mother and the family desired. And then a discussion would ensue between the physicians and the mother.
The exact intent of his comments, not clear, but some commentators and lawmakers took them to mean he was discussing the possibility of letting a newborn die. In response to that criticism, Governor Northam has now tweeted this statement: "I have devoted my life to caring for children, and any insinuation otherwise is shameful and disgusting," end quote. Today, Republican Senator Ben Sasse of Nebraska responded to Governor Northam in this statement: "What's shameful is that you're too cowardly to say point blank that it's wrong to leave babies to die after birth. You could have said that yesterday, but because you're terrified of an extremist pro-abortion lobby that now defends even infanticide, you're still ducking." This uproar in Virginia comes as the governor of Rhode Island gets behind a push for late-term abortion legislation, and after New York's Democratic Governor Andrew Cuomo just last week signed a bill dropping restrictions on abortion. Governor Huckabee, where are we going?
To hell in a handbasket is where we're going. This is uncivilized. It's uncivilized behavior to have a fully developed baby and we take the baby's life at the point of birth. This is not a political issue. This is not Democrat, Republican. It's not left or right. This is up and down. We're either going to respect human life and believe that every person is equal, or we're going to go back to the horrible days in history where some people were more equal than others, and we did not respect that every human life has intrinsic worth and value. And when we do that, we take ourselves on a road from which we cannot come back. And I pray to God that this gets out of the realm of the political back and forth, and we look at it from a human rights perspective, an issue of personhood, not an issue of politics, but whether or not when 23 chromosomes from a male and 23 from a female come together and create a human life, do we believe that the personhood that's created in that moment matters? And do we protect and honor that human life? Or are we to believe that we can choose some life to be more valuable than others? And God help us when we ever say, this person has value, this person doesn't. This person we keep, this person is disposable and expendable. We no longer will be able to say, God bless America. We will only be able to say, God forgive America.
Here's what I don't understand, if I can, ask everybody their opinion on this. If killing a pregnant woman is considered double homicide, double murder, then how do we look at this differently? I guess that's just a question I have a hard time wrapping my head around.
You mean if it's two lives at that point,
but
how do you separate out now?
But it's still considered murder then.
It's an interesting question.
And I know, 'tis my fate in life on the couch to be the one to defend Governor Northam's comments and the bills in New York and Rhode Island, which I think do a lot of good in protecting a woman's right to control her own body and what the Supreme Court intended with Roe v. Wade here. But the reason that it's different than murder is murder comes with malice, and these late-term abortions are occurring when the life of the mother or the life of the fetus is in danger. And Governor Northam's clarification made clear that the baby that he was discussing was not viable. We would have lived maximum a couple hours outside of the womb. So this isn't about leaving babies to die. And some little-known facts about what went on in New York, because I know there was big uproar here last week about it, is that our penal code actually works in such a way that a woman could be punished for having a late-term abortion. And we talked about that during the presidential election when then candidate Trump stumbled into a whole big mess where he said that women should be punished. And even the Susan B. Anthony group said, no, that's not the case here. This is about women's reproductive health. It is about privacy. It is about ensuring that states are in step with what Roe v. Wade intended when we see rollbacks of women's protections in Ohio.
All right, I want to stop
There's
before
nothing reproductive about the death of a baby.
But it's not the death of a baby, Governor.
Yes, it is.
That is not a viable fetus.
Wait a minute.
It's not.
When you say viability is interpretive, and
really,
you know,
because I thought viability meant is it going to live or is it not going to live?
Well, if it lives, it lives. If it doesn't, then let
but the
God
doctors
be the judge.
in Virginia, 3 medical professionals actually have to deem that you should have this procedure, and that's what that bill was trying to override, because it was too onerous for you to have to go to 3 different people.
But I thought Democrats believed in science. Biologically, it is not a part of a woman's body. If it was, it would have the exact DNA of the woman. It would have the same blood type. It doesn't. It is a distinct, unique human being from the moment of conception.
But one that can't live on its own.
But
that's why these
actually, we're kind of talking about 2 ends of the spectrum here, and I want to make sure that we're apples and apples. So you guys are now talking about conception in the beginning.
Well,
what
the governor
these
is. I'm not.
bills
I'm
are talking about
term.
go with what the governor of Virginia said, and that was this is at the beginning of life, like the baby's already been delivered.
Yeah.
The baby has been
I want to get back to where we're going, though, because, Morgan, you've got 3 states, Virginia, Rhode Island, New York, and this issue is popping up, and Jessica put it well, at a time when Roe versus Wade is being talked about more politically, because everything is seen through that prism. Is there, I don't want to say the word coincidence, but is there a thread here, if you will, among Democrats and this particular issue and where we are?
I think that this is an incredibly difficult issue for a lot of people to talk about. And what the Democrats have done here with these cases, I think, has stirred up a hornet's nest in that probably many Americans are fine with things under 5 months. But once you start getting to a full-term baby, you start to ask yourself, well, and I'm not a medical professional, but if the baby can be born, I understand what the governor is saying. Why don't you just let God, fate determine whether that baby, birth the baby, whether it lives or dies? I think that these are choices that women need to have with their doctors. They need privacy to do it. But as a society, I think the pushback that we saw yesterday is people really went to say, wait a minute, this is a full-term baby. This is a human life. And I think that there is just, I don't want to hit any women over the head. I don't want to demonize people. That's not the message I want to convey here. But I think whenever you start to see a baby that could live fully outside of the womb, you start to ask yourself, well, who are we if we're not doing everything we can to protect that baby?
And I think that's correct, and I don't think that any of us feel differently about that. But what's going on here with these cases, which I might add that only 1% of abortions occur after 20 weeks. So this is a very small percentage of things that are happening.
Yeah, but if you're in that 1%, that's a life.
And there have also been babies who
and it's the
their
mother's
parents
life
have been told that they were going to die and they haven't, and it's a medical phenom. I mean, I get it, it's rare, but it still happened.
But Jessica, but the bill is there, what, in order to protect the women from being prosecuted? Is that the point?
Well, that's part of it, but it's also to ensure, again,
have
at a time
I haven't heard that from the doctor.
Have any women or doctors been prosecuted?
It does happen rarely, but it has happened in some instances. And again, Roe v. Wade is the law of the land, and Governor Cuomo and the governor of Rhode Island are trying to ensure that our states are in step with the protections afforded by the Supreme Court, that women have the right to make their own health care decisions between them and their doctor, and that they have the right to privacy. And it is a very small percentage when this happens. I think that the governor should clarify even further his comments that fetus he was discussing was not viable on their own.
I did reach out to his office today, so I'm waiting to hear back.